coalition of pro-democracy reformers want Hong Kong's next chief executive to be directly elected in 2017. The Chinese government insists the leader must be chosen from a pre-approved list. Over the last 4 months, as this increasingly divisive debate has brought thousands of Hong Kongers onto the streets, filmmakers James Leong and Lin Li have been behind the scenes with the activists, working to galvanise public opinion. In the first of 2 special reports, People and Power investigates how the arguments about the island's future began and where they might lead.
The call to action came unexpectedly. September 26, 2014. Students stormed a fenced-off area outside Hong Kong's government headquarters. Known as Civic Square, it had until recently been a popular spot for protests. The stunt capped a week-long student strike in support of greater democracy for Hong Kong. These students didn't know it yet, but it also marked the start of something bigger, something no one had ever thought would happen, a massive spontaneous exercise in civil disobedience. Spearheaded by students and supported by veteran activists, the protest pits Hong Kongers against a formidable adversary, the Chinese government. Amid heightened tensions and soaring rhetoric, hope and fear, how will Beijing react?
History is full of such examples. You just don't know how a thing ends. It could be glorious, it could be terrible.
But the seed of Hong Kong's largest ever sit-in was planted not by a student, but by a bookish academic. Law professor Benny Tai had for a long time led a quiet life, but in 2013 he wrote an article that would eventually spark the movement known as Occupy Central with Love and Peace.
The Chinese government promised that the chief executive election in 2017 will be elected by universal suffrage. But the kind of universal suffrage may be something in which all the candidates will be screened by the Chinese government before the Hong Kong people can have a chance to choose. So in 2013, I put forward the idea of Occupy Central civil disobedience movement to kind of generate the kind of political pressure on the Chinese government.
That idea caught fire, and Tai enlisted the help of sociology professor Chang Kin Man.
We want to protect our freedom and all other rights we have been enjoying. We need a system that is democracy to safeguard this kind of liberty and right.
By June this year, the movement had grown. As Beijing and the Hong Kong government prepared to release their proposal for the vote, Occupy Central announced that it would hold an unofficial referendum on how candidates for the city's top job should be nominated. The activists were counting on a strong turnout to bolster their chances of dialogue with the government. They promised to back down if fewer than 100,000 people participated in their referendum. But if that number was met or exceeded, and the authorities then failed to deliver the genuine universal suffrage demanded by Tai and his group, they vowed to stage a sit-in in Hong Kong's business district.
This will be only the last resort, but we are very committed to it if government refuses to respect the view of Hong Kong people.
June 11th, anger outside China's liaison office in Hong Kong, one day after Beijing delivered what many saw as a warning to pro-democracy activists. In a white paper on the one country, two systems policy governing Hong Kong, Beijing insisted that the city's high degree of autonomy isn't an inherent right. It exists only because the central leadership allows it. Days later, Occupy Central's website was hit by cyber attacks of a scale not seen before in Hong Kong. The two incidents set alarm bells ringing.
It is a naked attempt to rewrite the basic law, to redraw the boundaries of one country, two systems, Hong Kong people enjoying a high degree of autonomy and Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong. We've also seen the unprecedented massive cyber attacks that have been mounted against the trial run of the electronic voting system and also against the next media organization. If Beijing is not worried about the referendum, why go to this length?
We want to have universal suffrage. And we could not be silenced by this kind of attack. And so let Hong Kong people don't be scared by this kind of attack in the real world or in the virtual world. Use our wit and use our footsteps to come out to show to those who do not want us to have universal suffrage that we really want universal suffrage. And that is our dream.
The referendum kicked off on the 20th of June. Ahead of the opening of electronic polls at noon and paper balloting 2 days later, supporters of Occupy Central were out on the streets urging people to vote. Veteran pro-democracy activist Martin Lee joined the march, spurred on by what he saw as China's refusal to respect Hong Kong's constitution, the Basic Law, or to honour promises made to the city's former colonial rulers.
Hong Kong people feel that we are being betrayed by the British government when China unilaterally states its own position on Hong Kong, which is clearly different from the basic policies on Hong Kong as spelled out in the Joint Declaration and the Basic Law. We naturally expected the British government to disagree. But lo and behold, the British government effectively, through the Prime Minister, agreed with the Chinese position.
At noon, online voting got underway. The system, under attack just a few days earlier, appeared to be working well.
So happy.
Administered independently by academics at the University of Hong Kong, the poll asked voters to choose from 3 proposals on how their next chief executive should be nominated. All involved allowing the public a say, something Beijing wasn't likely to approve. Many hours later, they were still going. The activists were in high spirits.
250,000. I do not have more figures. 250,000 up to this point. No matter what is the choices of those who vote, I think the number itself can already tell us that it is a success kind of action.
全民投票。
Tai was joined by Joshua Wong and his student group Scholarism. Founded in 2011 when Wong was just 15, the group successfully campaigned against the Hong Kong government's plans to implement a school curriculum described by critics as little more than pro-Chinese Communist Party propaganda. They're now some of the city's best-known activists. Wong and most of his team were too young to vote, but that didn't stop them from co-authoring one of the 3 proposals put forward in the referendum.
嗰邊都有投票可以即刻投㗎啦，俾份你先。呢個係3號學界方案，撐下我哋啲後生仔。喂，哦，多謝晒，多謝晒。
A few passers-by stopped to say hi.
你好，你好。啱啱投咗。好，多謝晒。屋企人嚟啫嘛。哦，多謝晒，多謝晒。
Activism has made Wong a bit of a celebrity in Hong Kong, but not everyone was supportive of his latest cause. Paper voting began on the 22nd of June. At a polling station in downtown Hong Kong, there was a steady stream of people. They joined the more than 600,000 people who had already cast their ballots online.
I think the white paper played a very crucial role in causing the people to come out to vote because it has frustrated a lot of people, Hong Kong people's expectation on the nature of one country, 2 systems, about the kind of autonomy we are promised. And so that may be a reason people want to use the vote to express their frustration or even anger.
I think those people just understand it wrongly. They think that one country, 2 system is to have nothing of China in Hong Kong, which is not true. Constitutionally, it's not true. Politically, it's not true. Economically, definitely it's not true. Socially, it's never been true.
On the last day of the referendum, a small group of protesters gathered outside a polling station.
There are some of the pro-Beijing groups. They haven't any signage, which group they belong to.
方唔方便問幾句啊？
唔使啦。
點解啊？
全部寫晒啦，我要講嘅嘢。
哦，你要講嘅嘢全部寫晒喺度啊？
係啦。
哦，寫咩啊？呢度我唔係幾識睇中文㗎。香港不穩定係嘛？冇人嚟投資係咪？哦。Have you ever engaged any of them in dialogue at all?
Of this group? No. I think they are just there are people behind them. We haven't talked with those people yet.
This man, hovering around the protest, spent his time taking photos of journalists.
你係咪安排咁啊？咁你拍俾我哋做咩？唔知道啊？
It was hard to tell if all the protesters came from Hong Kong.
愛國愛國，唔記得咗。
愛國愛港唔記得咗。
佔中違法係不容爭辯嘅，就算得到幾多知名人士嘅背書，亦都唔可能將犯法嘅行為包裝成為公義。
Outside police headquarters, members of a group called Caring Hong Kong Power were also staging a protest. They'd come with a petition bearing 30,000 signatures.
佔領中環破壞 決戰中，守護孩子，永絕戰中，支持警察，嚴正執法，支持警察，嚴正執法。
Despite the protests, there were no major disruptions to the referendum. 10 days after the launch of the vote, the results were in.
係總共有792808位市民投咗票。3個方案加埋一齊咧，公民提名其實我哋睇到咧係即係壓倒性地係有超過90%，即係91%嘅市民咧係認同嘅。我哋真係好誠切嘅希望咧就係特區政府你唔好話聽唔見，或者唔好扮聽唔見啦，喺你面前㗎啦，擺晒喺度㗎啦，數字説話㗎啦，你唔好扮睇唔到啦，你一定要去正面回應呢一啲嘅訴求啦，咁我哋而家同一時間咧都呼籲咧香港市民啦，就聽日7月1號7一大遊行，我哋呼籲市民咧都走出嚟，我哋透過投票發聲。現在我哋再透過我哋嘅腳步與汗水，將我哋嗰個爭取普選嗰個決心表現出嚟。
July 1st, the anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China, also the day when the city's annual pro-democracy march takes place. This year, organisers were hoping for a record turnout, a signal to Beijing of their desire for genuine universal suffrage.
各位市民大家好，呢一度係學民思潮。
Wong and his fellow students, though, had a little something extra planned.
學民思潮會喺呢個遊行之後咧，會同學聯會發起，會留守呢個嘅遮打道，同埋會包圍特首辦，係要求特區政府去回應有71萬人係去支持呢一個公民提名嘅決心咯。
我哋唔會去衝擊任何警方嘅防線，我哋係強調非暴力為原則。
But the decision to act was a controversial one, something that even the leaders of Occupy Central found worrying.
We really believe that it's not a good timing. I'm personally very about it, so that's why we have spent quite a lot of time discussing with the students about their occupying actions. We don't need to give the government excuse saying that we are not orderly, because I really cannot trust the government.
The procession began. Organisers of the march estimated that some 500,000 people took part. Activists and politicians were out in force. At the Occupy Central stand, there was optimism and a sense of purpose.
That's why we have this street stand here, and we are selling all the souvenir T-shirts and towels, so that we can raise funds and continue with this campaign. So we need Hong Kong citizens to support us, and you can see people really support us a lot. You see people are very helpful. So this is a very good turnout. We need to tell Hong Kong government and Beijing that we want real democracy. They can't stop us.
Time for Wong and his fellow student activists to put their plan in action.
今晚佢同時喺遮打道呢一度，同埋喺特首辦嗰度進行一個包圍佔領行動，去到聽日接梁振英返工。包圍特首辦！包圍特首辦！包圍特首辦！包圍特首辦！
They hadn't applied for a permit for the march. Police were on standby and a warning was issued. Near the chief executive's office, they found that police had blocked their route.
後面電梯上緊嚟好多人啊！可唔可以唔好人踩人開咗個鐵下去啊？人踩人啊 Sir， 可唔可以開啊？人踩人啊！人踩人啊！人踩人啊！人踩人啊！人踩人啊！係咪想人踩人啊？
Your assembly is causing obstruction and danger to other road users and constituting an offence under Section 428 of the Summary Offences Ordinance. 希望在於人民，希望在於人民，改變始於抗爭，改變始於抗爭，希望在於。
Over in Central, protesters were locking arms and hunkering down. Organisers of the sit-in vowed not to leave before 8 the next morning. The police wanted them out there and then. Outside the chief executive's office, protesters kept tabs on developments in Central.
如果有600幾人或者過千人被捕，其實好大鑊啊！如果我上梁車熱送你走算。如果被拘捕嘅形式有可能有啲不同，就係話我哋要再突顯嗰個不公嘅時候，我哋唔會坐低翹手唔俾佢拉咯。
呢個係我哋要寫低啲律師嘅啲電話咯。如果我哋俾人拉咗，就可以打呢個電話去求救。
佢要清場咪俾佢清咯。我哋咁和平都俾你清場，你要承擔嗰個政治後果咯。你要清我咪俾你拉咯，我又唔介意嘅。
介意俾佢哋拉？
我有心理準備。
有冇食嘢啊？
未啊？
係咪好攰啊？
係啊。
咁我俾你瞓先啦。
好啊。
They settled down to wait for the police to move in. But the hours ticked by and they were allowed to sleep undisturbed. Things were nowhere near as calm in Central. Protesters said they would surrender, but not before 8. A crowd had come to lend their support. At a minute to 8, a countdown began. A tiny victory after an exhausting night, and a small taste of what was yet to come. Next week, how tear gas and pepper spray helped spark the biggest display of civil disobedience Hong Kong has ever seen.